Welcome to the Jerry Pitre Show, your go-to podcast for everything in the world of collectible cards and sports memorabilia. Whether you're a seasoned collector or just getting started, we dive deep into the stories, the history, and the trends shaping the market. From iconic rookie cards to rare sports artifacts, join us as we explore the fascinating intersection of sports and collecting. Let's dig into the treasures that tell the stories of legends. Episode 6 featuring Rolling with FD.
What's up, Jerry Pitre?
So, FD is the man. You can find him on YouTube most nights doing lives, putting content out. He's really been killing the game forever.
Try to stay busy.
Longtime friend, longtime homie.
Yeah.
Super glad to have him on the podcast. FD, give us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm rolling with FD. I've been a sports enthusiast for years. Played college football, and I just always love to talk about sports. And I love collecting cards in the sports world. So I've been active for the last almost 3 years now, making content at shows where I'll go to a show you what I really buy, walk around, talk to people, understand what's happening in the hobby, kind of give you information, updates, things like that. But I also have podcasts. We've probably done now over 250 podcasts. Well, I like to talk to people in the hobby. I like to talk to people in sports. I like to talk to people from different areas just to find out what they're doing and really talk about what's the most current information that's out right now. And let's break it down, dissect it, and talk about it. That's me in a nutshell. You can find me on Rolling with FD on YouTube as well as Rolling with FD on Instagram, TikTok. I'm in many places. RWFD on Facebook.
Hey, this guy is putting out great content. If you're not rolling with FD,
Thank you.
you're missing out. You're
I
missing
appreciate
out.
it.
So to start us out,
Yeah.
you kind of lightly talked on it. What got you into collecting sports cards?
When I was a child, my father was the first person. It was two people, mom and dad. My father was the first person that kind of planted the seed when I was really young, about 6 or 7 years old. Tell you the truth, Jerry, I started collecting coins and stamps, and I was really into that big time. And then my father came to me one day and said, "Hey, you ever thought about collecting baseball cards?" And I didn't really know what baseball cards were, so I knew he had a passion from when he was a kid. He wanted to collect, wasn't able to financially. So he started educating me on cards, kind of what they're worth. Back in the day, you could go to a grocery store and pick up a Beckett, or you could pick up other price guides that were out at the time. And every month, you could look at the price changes on cards. So, like religiously, I started looking at doing some, but even back then, man, doing some research, setting consecutive months together and seeing what is the price fluctuation on cards. And then that got me into really collecting cards at about 8 years old. Then after that, I started collecting autographs at like 13. My first autograph was an autographed Willie Stargell's jersey, Pirates jersey. And that was at the Rosemont Convention Center. Now everybody goes to that as the National. I met him there, and that kind of kicked off a passion of collecting autographs. So then that was like two things going on. Not only am I looking at cards, and it would be segments of years. Well, some I would look at cards exclusively. Some I would do both cards and autographs, and some years I only did autographs. And that took me through. There was some breaks when I probably finished school, did a few things. I had some children. There was some breaks. But all this time that's been going on, I've been collecting something. And I always thought about when I was younger, it's like, how can I build a retirement fund from a young age to when I'll get blessed to get to that point to actually retire from being a professional person out here, and also have fun while I'm doing it and reminisce on meeting the player if it's an autograph or the story behind how I acquired a card.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And so on the stamp thing, do you still collect the stamps at all?
I do not. I do not now. I learned early that the more you go back, the more vintage the stamps are, the more rare they are, the more expensive they are. But I still have what I collected as a kid.
So that was one of the first shows that I actually went to here in my local town. They've got a coin and stamp show, And man, that was like the first time I like got to see like the hustle and bustle of a show. And I'm sitting in there, and I'm by far the youngest person in the room. I mean, by a country mile, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I mean, these people are willing and dealing just like you're at a card show. And he's like, man, last comp's 100. I got $50 in my pocket, and you're just like,
Yeah.
Grandpa, like, kill it.
And especially the dollar bills or any kind of bill, that stuff can be graded just like coins can, and it's rare. And then there's a story behind it. Each symbol that's kind of on a note or a coin tells you what was printed at, and then there's a story behind it, what kind of ink was used, what kind of paper was used. So once you get into that, it's almost like the same kind of knowledge level that's needed to get into sports cars and anything else. Do your research. You got to really find out, go in there and talk to people and learn more and more before you make your first purchase.
Funny enough, you say that. The rare currency was the very first thing I actually sold on eBay. And so I had found a dollar bill, and I want to say it came out of a vending machine, and it was a binomial. And literally, it was like 6767 all the way across on the serial number. Bro, I sold that dollar bill for like $70, and I felt like a superhuman. I was like, this is crazy. So, I'm a weirdo. I always look at your dollar bills, look at your,
I have a friend that lives in Phoenix that checks his currency all the time. A change that he gets back from a purchase, he's all over that.
I'm that same weirdo. That same weirdo. I got a hit once. After that, we're looking.
That's right.
So, okay. Now, since you are such a big collector, kind of like what's the criteria you use to like decide to add like a card, autograph, like what meets the criteria?
Well, first I like to watch sports. That may be different than what other people like to do. I actually enjoy. I played sports. I enjoy watching sports. And my father, again, as a kid, kind of set me down and taught me how to figure out who is really a future potential GOAT in a sport. What do they need to do? If you play running back, one of the some things you need to do. As a quarterback, what do you need to do? That's why sometimes I can look at a player and know immediately that's not the player that to build a foundation off of as far as collecting their cards. So I'm looking at the player, I'm looking at how they prepare for the game. How do they answer questions in the post-game interview? Like, what are some of the rituals and the things they go through? Are they coachable? Can their coach talk to them on the court or on the field, and they're listening and taking in information instead of refuting what the person just told them? Then I'll look at what's rare. I'm looking for something rare. It's got to be numbered. It's got to be some kind of, I don't know. It's got to be a lower number card, something that's different. Something when you see it, it shocks you. Also, eye appeal. What does that front picture look like on the card? Is it something that's original to the player? Is it how they shoot, how they dribble? What other players in the picture with them? Is it Kobe being guarded by LeBron? We know that card is very popular. Are there situations like that going on with the card? Again, what is the brand of the card? Right? You got some brands that are easier to achieve or purchase. There are some brands that are very hard to find and hard to purchase. When you look for all those parameters and you build them all together, that's when you have value. That's kind of what I look for on a regular basis. And I don't have a problem with going to a show and not buying anything. Maybe
a quick interjection here.
What's that?
Does licensed or unlicensed matter to you at all?
Oh yes, license matters to me. Me personally, I don't want to be a snob, but I don't touch unlicensed stuff. I'll see it, I'll look at it. Some of this stuff looks cool. You'll find 4, 5, 6 autographs on one card by some of your favorite players. Hey, that stuff looks cool. But I'm thinking about what's the future value of this, or what is the resale value of this? Now, let me say, I'm a person that collects more long term than some other people. If you're moving and you want to move cars, I may dabble in some unlicensed. I don't know. But I'm always looking at what's going on 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years from now on this card. That's my mindset.
Yeah, that's kind of similar to me. I always try to take the what is this going to do in 10 years? Are people actually going to care about this?
That's right.
Or is this just the new shiny product?
That's right.
And I really, the best success I've had is taking that approach because, I've paid for cook groups. I've listened to top 5 advice before and go, oh, this is the best. And that's a pretty quick burning candle. Um, so since you have been kind of in the hobby, in the market, like what current trends are you seeing in the sports card market?
Well, I see that the more rare something is, probably the better your outlook is in the future. If you're going to make moves on some rookies that are coming out, or some second year players that are hot, or someone who just had 35 points, 2 games this week, but they haven't done that in 6 weeks, that's a move, but purchase move kind of situation. There are great opportunities there for someone. That's not my lens when I come into a situation. Um, I think the market right now is one that probably take more research time, understand what you're buying, and have a reason why you're buying it. I would always say that we need to do that more and more and more now. If someone told you to buy something, may not be a good reason. If you've done your research, watch the player, you understand their stats and how they score, not just looking at 22 points a game. How does that person score that 22 points a game? Those are the things that help you out. If this guy's a young quarterback coming up, or if this young lady is in the WNBA and she's doing very well, understand how she's doing very well. And now with media, there are many different ways for you to understand the progress of a player or how they perform each night. It doesn't even take a lot of time to really wrap your head around what did Steph Curry do tonight? How did he score? What did this rookie that's with the Washington Wizards do tonight? How did he score? It's easy to understand. And so we know Ohtani just hit a home run.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
No,
Now, this is a player. Let me tell you this story. This is a player that when he was a rookie in 2018, people told me to my face, he can't hit American pitching. So then again, you got to lean on doing your own research. I can tell you how I found Ohtani. I'm watching, which is out of my generation. I'm watching a 60 Minutes interview of Ohtani, still in Japan. And I watched that interview and tracked this guy and said to myself, I got to get something of his when he's a rookie. I got to do that because I'm starting to believe in this player. And even though people are naysaying, people can naysay you out of greatness. So you got to just really take your time and understand what's going on.
No, I totally agree. And I really think that a player's performance and milestones, I really think that definitely has, positive, negative impacts on the card. Because, like you said, people are putting out all that hate. Oh, he's good in Japan, but not in America. And, it's totally different. And like, bro, that was the interview he recently did where the lady was like, oh, so are you nervous at all? And he's like, no, not at all. And like the level of confidence out of his voice, I just was like, I love that. I love that. Yes. I mean, honestly. So since you've been in this for so long, like what are some of the most significant changes you've seen to the sports card industry over the past like decade or so?
Over the past decade, that's been a shift in grading companies. Back when LeBron James was a rookie, Beckett was the grading company and had the highest values of cards graded with Beckett. Their values were graded in PSA. Now, right around the pandemic, there was a shift in that graph where PSA began to take over. Their brand loyalty and brand dominance became greater and greater and greater. Price values went up when cards were graded. And that's why if you look at Jordan cards, a lot of them from the 90s are graded with Beckett because that was the grading company. I remember going to Miami, walking into a shop. The owner is telling me about Dwayne Wade. I'm trying to look for Carmelo Anthony and LeBron, and everything in his case is Beckett. That's just what it was. So now, and even I had to respond. We started content, and I started grading more cards. I love the Beckett slab. Some people don't. I like the additional information or the subgrades. Some people don't want all that information. I just think the color of it and the way the slab looks, it just looks pristine to me. It looks high class. But I had to realize that, hey, I can go my own route if I want to, and I can keep grading with BGS, or I can kind of start taking a select few cards that I really want to grade with PSA and maximize that value and go that route and grade other cards with BGS. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. There are some cards that I will grade with BGS if I think it might get a higher grade. And to me, that's another thing we could talk about. There's a strategy for each card. There are certain parameters. There are certain graded companies that grade a certain way, front, back, corners. You got to pay attention to that. So you might get a higher grade with PSA than you will with Beckett and vice versa, depending on the characteristics of that card. Pay attention to that. I'm always concerned about maximizing value. So that's my objective when I grade a card. But I think card grading overall, to answer your question, and the impact of it and the significance of it when it concerns the value of a card has significantly changed in the last 10, 15 years.
No, I would totally agree. And it's crazy. When I first came into the hobby, again, as an adult, you hear these stories of guys that had 86 Fleer Jordans and they were in PSA 10s and they said, nope, we're going to crack it and we're going to get that BGS 9.5 because at that time, that was the way to achieve the most value.
Yes.
And also to jump off on your the look, the appeal of the Beckett slab, I totally agree. I mean, if we're talking about like Timex versus Rolex, I really, really love the look, the feel of the Beckett slabs. I mean, I love the subgrades. I think it's silly that a lot of companies don't do the subgrades. It kind of feels maybe lazy is the wrong term, but it's like you're going to make somebody pay extra for grader notes. Like put it on the slab, like, hey, you've got a beautiful centering, beautiful corners, but surface has some issue, whatever, right? That way, as a collector, as a buyer, you kind of have a more realistic expectation of what you're coming into. But
Jerry, I can also take you way back. I can take you beyond 10 years. So that was a time where everybody's now talking about Star Jordans, right? Those cards were deemed as trash because they were easily counterfeited. So nobody wanted a Star Jordan. Grading changed that. Grading was a third-party stamp on the card to say this card is real. Now, if the card is real, let's start looking at the corners, the edging, the surface, the back, and find out what we're dealing with here and how rare is where. I remember going into baseball card shops that only sold baseball. You couldn't find a football card in there. And I remember going into one time where they had some Jordans, 86 Jordans, Fleer, just spread out at the bottom of a counter. And the store owner was like, yeah, I can't really sell those because I don't know if those are real. People have been faking those lately. They're ungraded, just laid out, no sleeve. This is before sleeves, really. That's when people were putting cards raw into screw downs.
I remember that, yeah.
Thinking they're protecting that card. It could be humidity, anything getting at that card, a fluctuation in temperature. Your card could be stuck to that and now be pretty much a PSA 1-2, if that. So grading over the years has taken, and that's why I tell people all the time, don't pay attention to what are the trends today because things may change years from now. So a car or two cards, we talking about the 86 Fleer and the Star Jordan rookie were almost banished away from the hobby. Grading brought those cards back and now have taken them to a level where we saw the 86 Fleer get up to 700 something thousand. Now it's around like 185. Those values were not there before.
Yeah, and it's funny. I still know card dealers to this day that are literally like, yeah, I don't believe in grading.
Exactly.
I'll just sell it raw.
Yep.
And it's funny because a lot of people actually have that mindset, which I have no hate on that, but it's just interesting to see how some people just stick to their guns and go, there's no way. And then like me personally, a lot of times, unless it's really, really nice, if I buy it raw, I sell it raw. If I buy it graded, I'll sell it graded.
Yeah.
But I mean, there has been multiple times where I buy something for 20, 30 bucks, grade it for another 20, 30, and then you're just like, oh, wow, I just turned this into $400.
Yeah.
So that if you were, purely going on, I'm trying to increase value, it seems kind of nonsensical to not grade.
I'll tell you this, if I'm at a show or I'm at a case and I walk up and this dealer says I don't grade, my another lens comes on.
Oh yeah.
Now I'm looking at this entire case as gradable product. Let me find the gem, the PSA 9 or the PSA 10 here, and try to maximize.
Oh yeah. I totally agree. I love going to those tables where they don't have a graded card at
Yeah.
all on the table. And I take that same approach. I'm just like, man, let me start a pile. Because, a few of these I know I'm going to sell raw, but I'm looking for, that 86 Fleer Jordan, that really high end card that I can get a good deal on.
Yeah.
Send it off to PSA and double, triple up.
And also the flip side, I remember going to a show when we first started filming content, and there's a Topps Steph Curry rookie card there. Borders are great. Card looks clean. I'm not afraid. I asked the guy, "What's wrong with this card? Why haven't you sent this card in for grading?" He said, "If you look at Steph's cheek, there's a large dimple, a real imprint in the cheek of his face. You put the card in the light, you kind of look at it, turn it on the angle. Yep, you can see that. So everybody out there, don't be afraid to converse with people. Talk to them. Really, if you see a great card and it's not graded, ask what's up. Why haven't you graded? They're probably going to tell you I don't believe in grading, or there's an error. There's some kind of print defect on that card. Now you know.
Yeah, and I've had some similar instances where I go, "Hey, man, why isn't this graded?" And they literally go, "Hey, bro, that was in a PSA 7. I don't know what's wrong with it. I cracked it. I think it's worth more raw." And, you look at it for a closer inspection. But, yeah, I mean, it's a good telltale sign of like,
Yeah.
hey, what am I walking into as far as these dealers?
Yep.
Because, a lot of the older cats, I mean, I have literally been at tables here recently and guys still pull out the Beckett price guide.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like,
Oh yeah.
hey, this last one did 800. Well, yeah, but the Beckett says it's 14 in an EX. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, you got some soft coin, So
Yeah.
it's super interesting.
Yeah.
So I think this is a really good kind of, what do you think's going to happen in, how do you think the sports card industry is going to evolve in the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, two things. I think rare always wins at some point. Know the right player, buy rare if that player is going to win. On the other side, I say this many times. I want people to take this the right way. 5 to 10 years from now, you're gonna have a lot of good looking cards with player worn patches, or no players ever worn this again before in their life patches. You're gonna have goals. You're gonna have a one of ones that won't be worth anything. It's hard for us right now, I think, in 2024 to wrap our minds around that as a collecting community, but it's coming. I'm trying to prepare myself to make sure that I'm buying stuff that I think is rare of the right person, the right player, the right event, whatever it may be. I'm trying to go that route. Now, there are things unpredictable. We have Wanda Franco. We have a bunch of stuff that's going to happen that's off the field, off the court, that we can't predict. This is why I kind of look at, is that player coachable? What are they talking about when they talk to the media? What is the interview like? That's the only way I can try to get as close to that side of that individual as possible. Are they humble? Old school principles. That's the only way I can get there, to try to predict what the off the court is. We still get it wrong sometimes. I can get it wrong sometimes. But there's probably going to be more off the court things going on, off the field things than we've ever seen before. We kind of see that right now in modern sports. There's probably going to be more of that. That's the unpredictable side. But we do have control of, if we look at Lonzo Ball, what do we see? If we look at Jordan Poole, what do we see? I can tell you this. I go through a checklist in my head as far as what do I want to buy. I was at Burbank Sports Cards 2.5 years ago. I think this was right after Golden State won a championship. And this guy had just rare Jordan Poole sitting out. Rare. And I'm standing there, and he had this one-on-one encased card. I'm standing there looking at it, and I'm thinking, like, okay, I should probably buy that. Then my inside voice came to me and said, FD, are you going through your checklist? You don't touch a splash in the pan player that just popped up out of nowhere. His record at Michigan was not great, right? He was a good player coming out of high school. He played with Golden State when they had a terrible record. He performed okay, right? His shooting percentage was okay. Stick to what you do. Don't just go for the splash in the pan. And that's sometimes I have to gut check myself because you start looking at stuff and you're like, man, this might be a hot player. But how long is he going to be hot and when am I going to make a move on this card?
No, I totally agree with that. Um, you know, I don't I don't want to buy the hot trendy guy. I like buying the dead guys. I mean, as silly as it sounds, Mickey Mantle's not going to
They're
mess
less,
up
they're less,
his yeah, you know what I mean? He's not going to come in and pull a Wander Franco or anything crazy.
no.
But even as far as modern guys, I take that same approach, kind of where you're like, you know, how's this guy interviewed? I really resonate with is this person humble?
That's right.
Because I've heard a lot of these guys come out and they're like, man, I'm the greatest thing since sliced bread. And you're like, this isn't going to last long. I mean, the hunch, like the hairs raise up and you're like, I'm good. Now,
But you don't hear the Steph Currys, the Kawhi Leonards. There are even players today that you don't hear any talk like that.
oh, no. Yeah, exactly. So on the patches subject, are you a game worn, player worn, or does it matter?
I prefer my first is game worn. I have bought purchase cards that were player worn, but not of any event because I liked the card and I thought it was going to hold value for a certain amount of time that was good by me. But to me, game worn, like if you look at a flawless card, if you can compare flawless to national treasures, in my world, flawless wins. I think flawless might even surpass national treasure values in the future. These are some of the things that we don't know right now. Once you have so many cards out where that patch could have been just put on, that jersey could have just been put on during the autograph signing of the cards and then taken back off, or did he score 26 in that? Those things are going to matter as we go further into the future. So again, my first ranking is game worn. After that, I'm looking for value again. And I understand that the hobby itself has deemed these cards as cards having value.
Yeah, that's kind of how I do it too. And I kind of got the inspiration from Jeremy Lee. And his tactic is he says he always goes for the second year because it's guaranteed to be game worn.
I've heard him.
And I really feel like that's a super sneaky play right now that not a lot of people are talking about. They're like, oh, well, I want the first year Patrick Mahomes, patch, this, that, and the other. And it's like, it's player worn. And, he probably wore it photo shoot, autograph sign, and something like that, right?
Yep.
But in 10 years, I want that one. Oh, no, he scored 27 points on this team, this game. This is a part of the patch. You can see the grass stain on it where he got tackled. Like, I really feel like in a decade plus, that's what actually matters.
And Jerry Milley brings up a great point. People sleep on, forget about, don't care about second-year cards. And there are second-year cards out here holding value, people, of the right player. Don't forget that.
No, I totally agree. And, like, I think you get better patches out of it, too. I mean, that's where you get your dual color patch, 3-color patch, grass stain, blood stain, whatever. I mean, I had a hockey card, and I forgot who the player was, but it was a second year. And one of my buddies is a real giant hockey guy, and he goes, and I believe on the back it said this was from this specific game. And he goes, oh, dude got in a fist fight. That looks like a blood stain. I was like, I didn't really know. I was like, just thinking it's just a stain. He goes, oh, man, whatever your price is, I'm paying you that and then some. And pulls up the YouTube where they're sitting there boxing it out on the ice. And you're like, yeah,
could be.
But it tells a story. It's got the history.
Yeah.
And, like I said, in 10 years, that's really what's going to
be huge. It's going to be huge.
So Now, kind of leading into like, what do you see some like changes that the hobby could do? Because I personally hate the napkin patches. I mean, especially if it's just a player worn or not like at least give me a sick patch. Like what's some things you think the industry could do different?
I did a podcast yesterday with Big John, and he brought up a good point, and I've thought about this before. Let's have uh, rare cards with different images. Like Prism right now, it's the same image. It could be 1 out of 1. It could be 1 out of 5. It could be out of 20 bronze. It could be whatever, but it's the same image. Give people different images with how more rare the card gets. Also, let's do different things. You got some goals. Create some different other colors or sequences of things that may be catching to the human eye, because all this stuff really attracts you to the card. There's a psychological play that's going on there, and they know what they're doing. If you got a gold card, it just looks like bouillon in your hand, right?
Yeah.
So do more things like that. And also, when you turn that card over, not only was it worn in the game, tell me the game, tell me the date, tell me the statistical accomplishments of the player that day, tell me everything about it, and give me some great photography. Just don't put a player just going up for a layup. Give me some great photography. Take me back to Stadium Club. When Stadium Club would have these portraits on the front. Take this approach to the card to the next level, and I think people will. It probably is going to be more expensive. It's going to be your print runs, your production, all that's going to be more. But we're talking about high-end cars, middle to high-end cars. Also, in the future, give me some chase stuff and some retail, right? Let me get this car that's out of 50, out of 100. I just bought that from Target. Give me that, because now we can attract people to the hobby. They get a win. Let's say they get that car graded, do something else with it, or they sell it. That money goes back into the hobby. Plus, you're giving something to hobby stores that are out there and hobby product for those who have probably been committed to the hobby a little bit more and longer. So I think if you can give me something in retail, and you can tell me on the back of a card that Joseph Smith scored 26 points on this day, and that patch right there, and give me a 3-color, give me a part of that emblem on that patch, I'm all in.
Yeah. I'm totally there with you. I see so many giant hits coming out of, these Breaker Delights or it was hit on Fanatics. Shout out to the Sports Card Nonsense Facebook group. So a gentleman had posted the other day, he hit an autographed Paul Skeens from a gas station pack. And he showed the receipt where he paid I think it was like $5-6, something crazy. But, we need to have more of those stories.
Much more.
For one, most of those buyers, I believe, are going to be kids.
I agree.
And my thought and my approach to how do we have longevity to this hobby is not entertaining Jerry. It's not entertaining FD. It's when we take our kids or my future kids, to the gas station and they want to rip a pack and they go, oh my God, I just ripped, a $500 Paul Skeens out of a $3 pack.
Yeah.
That kid will be 80 years old and remember that story and tell that story. And that folklore will help continue further progress the hobby because, I love my local LCS. I love the local card shops. They're great. Mom's not going in there and dropping $500 on a box.
No, my mother won't. My father wasn't. No.
No. I came from a super poor family, and the best I would get is hey, once a week we'll go to the Books A Million. Here's a pack of Pokemon, and I think at that time it was $10, right? And it was still a big deal as far as the 90s prices. I really agree. I wish the industry would give more on that retail side.
Well, on the flip side, though, it's not sweet. That person who pulls that card may not make an Instagram video, right? They may not run around on YouTube, but organically, you're building something. And it's going to take a little bit longer for that to grow to what you see as far as that person's income rising. They're able to contribute more to the hobby. They're able to, when I say contribute, I'm talking about buying and putting more money back into the hobby. That person's going to be able to do that because that was me, right? I remember times in my life I didn't have money to buy expensive cars. Even LeBron's rookie year, I am 27 years old. I didn't have the money at 27. I was 4 years out of college. I'm trying to start my work career. I want to understand, where am I living? Like, what city am I in? What am I,
Yeah.
right? So I didn't have the money to put into, but I used to look at cards and say, of LeBron's year, rookie year, I know this is going to be worth a lot later, right? So I'm going to plot a strategy now of how I'm going to try to acquire these kind of cards later. 2009, Steph comes out. I moved from LA to Detroit, Michigan. It was great for work. Helped me build my career. Helped me do what I'm doing now. But as far as isolating and grabbing those Steph cards when they were very affordable and everybody's talking about Blake Griffin, I couldn't do that. So now I try to really home in on what am I doing? What's my strategy? What's my plan?
No, I totally agree. So I graduated '09 from high school, and I remember, going, "Hey," yeah, and it's funny because, Blake Griffin, he jumped over the key, he did this, he did that, and it's like, but you've got this dude over here just draining threes,
Draining. No
like
splash in the
just
pan. No splash in the pan like Blake. Draining.
yes,
He had to fight through some ankle stuff, some other injuries, but you can see it. You can see something coming. And I even said last night too when I was on with Big John, we've had players over the years that have come out of nowhere, really, to the trained eye, not out of nowhere, but to the masses out of nowhere. We had Scottie Pippen pop up. This dude was an athletic trainer. Now he's dunking on Ewing. Ewing was Frat Ewing from Georgetown, right? We got Steph pop up. What about Blake Griffin? And James Harden was more talked about. And the kid Clarkson from UCLA was really talked about as a point guard. Well, hey, we had this dude pop up. And in modern day basketball and other sports, you're going to have players pop up that people probably didn't think too much about or a little bit about, and then they got this chink to their armor. But then later they're going to show you who they are. And there's some guys running around right now that I don't, if their name is not Lonzo Ball, their name is not Anthony Edwards, their name is not Victor Wembanyama, that might do more as far as winning championships in their career than everybody I just named.
no, I totally agree. I mean, I think back, what was it, 18, 19, where everybody's like, oh, Zion, Zion, Zion. He's going to be a game changer. He's going to be a game changer. And I'm just like he was good. Don't get me wrong.
He's a good
But
player.
it's just, it's
But we talk about greatness, Jerry.
yes, exactly. And longevity too.
That's right.
When I see the guys like Wemby, I think, oh, he's tall, he's skinny. How long does this last? Like, he's great right now.
Yes.
What happens when we tear an ACL?
Mm-hmm.
What happens when we hurt an ankle?
Yeah.
And I know some people are going to be like, oh, well, the history's not there. He's not been injury prone. Everybody gets old.
Yeah, we don't know.
But so okay. What do you think, like, as far as like how important is it for collectors to stay informed about like market trends or the news? Like, as far as collectibles go?
For me, I think it's very important. It probably all falls down to the person themselves. I like to stay abreast on anything. If you and I were out at dinner and we got to talking about something that happened in 1982 in history, if we both don't know, I'm pretty sure we're both looking that up. So I don't like to stay misinformed. So even when it comes to the hobby, and I would say any place that I put my dollars, I want to be as informed as possible. When I go to the grocery store now, Jerry, I'm in the aisle looking at the back of this package to understand the carbohydrates, the sugars. What does this red dye eat over here? I'm looking at everything. So the way I'm wired, I don't want to, let me say. I don't like to talk in absolutes. I don't want to put my money somewhere where I'm also not putting my research, my time, and my understanding. So for me, I would think anybody that wants to be informed, like right now, I'm talking to you, right? I got the Dodgers Mets game going on over here, right? I'm saying informed. I'm not just going to look at ESPN and find out what the box score was and how many hits Ohtani had. I want to see it happening. Then after this, I'm going to pull up YouTube and I'm going to look at the highlights from the game and find out what was going on. Then I'm probably going to listen to Dave Roberts and understand what was the coaching mentality. What were you thinking? What were you doing? Then I'm going to find a few select players like Kiki Hernandez, who has been killing people here in the playoffs, coming out of nowhere. I'm going to find out what are these guys talking about and what are they doing. One thing I like about Kiki, we talk about humility when we talk about sports. The other day he did an interview before they closed out San Diego. And the young lady asked him, what does it feel like to be him? Which is, to me, is the worst phrase in sports right now. What does it feel like to be him? And he looked at her and says, well, I'm not him. I'm a player on this baseball team. And tonight we have some business to take care of. Now, think about if you could matriculate that mindset through baseball, football, basketball, soccer, every major sport. What kind of performances would you see?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Well, that makes me think of the Kobe interview where they were in the playoffs, and they're like, "Well, what's wrong? You look upset. You know, is there not? You know, why aren't you celebrating?" He's like, "What's there to celebrate? Job's
That's
not
right.
done.
Job's not done.
Job's not done. Like,
Still
why
got
would I
work to do.
celebrate?
Yeah.
You know."
Still got work to do. But that's a young man who grew up with a father in the NBA, a father who was out of the NBA, a father who was overseas in another country, learning other languages. Kobe was learning other languages and became fluent in them. He has done things, insane things. This is what I say about Michael Strahan. Michael Strahan was a military brat that moved around the world with his father and his mom and his sisters. You don't think that comes across when you watch Good Morning America and why this guy is different? I remember when he was a rookie coming out of Texas Southern. I've been to Houston. I've walked Texas Southern's campus. These are the things we have to learn as people. Our experiences make us much more than what we are right now. It's about what we're going to be doing in the future.
No, I totally agree. I totally agree. So as this show is kind of more to educate the novice collector, like what are some common mistakes you see collectors make when like buying, selling cards?
I'll listen to people that are around them or in their immediate circle, taking that person's word as a predictor of things to come. Your own research, your understanding, how you feel about the player or the situation or the card or the grade of the card. Understanding everything about what you're about to get into. What is grading like? What are cards like? What is it like to negotiate in person? What is it like to receive and share information in person? All these aspects are very, very important. I come from a background, just to tell you about me. I used to work in sales for several years. I love selling. I love talking to people. Um, I love receiving information. I am happy when I walk out of a show and I've learned something that I never knew before. I've been in the hobby for a while. I did not know that. And I'll tell people that. Thank you for educating me because I did not know that. I don't walk in like, I'm FD and I know everything and, you can't tell me anything. I make content. I don't do all that. I come in like a regular person. I talk to people. I receive information and I give information. And I like to look at nice, rare things. And when I find those things, and sometimes I like to negotiate what is that price going to be. And I don't have a problem. I don't feel like it's what would you say, like a challenging a person. We're just in a negotiation about whatever product I'm about to buy, just like I do when I go to a car dealership or any place else. When I go to farmers market, sometimes I'm bartering with people about what's the price of this thing. So I think those attributes are just important. And you pick your one. If it's hard for you to talk to people, then you go to the show and maybe you set a goal that I'm going to talk to 2 people today, or 1 person today. And I'm going to learn one thing about that person. Then when you go back to the show again, you might see that same individual and now you know one thing about them. Now you can break the ice again and talk to them. If you don't like negotiating and you think that's like an argument, maybe sit down, read negotiation books, and understand more about negotiation and why it's not, and understand that you can walk away. There is what we call a BATNA. The best alternative to a no negotiation agreement is to just walk away. You can. I studied all this stuff in school and did all this stuff professionally, and so I love going somewhere, especially new, and find out about the atmosphere of the place that I'm at and talking to people. And that's what I look at a show as. This is another opportunity to get out and talk to people. And I don't put any other pretentious anything on top of that. It's just let me go out and talk to people and have fun. And look, maybe I learn about a good place to eat that's right down the street. Maybe I learn about a good place to go play pickup basketball. Maybe I learn about a great movie theater that has been historic in this area. It's a great place to go see a movie. Maybe I learn about a place that serves great milkshakes. I can learn many things at a card show if I just open myself up.
Yeah, I totally agree to that. So that's as an icebreaker to kind of like start the conversation. I always ask people, I'm like, hey, you local? You from here? Did you drive here? And if that person's like, where's a good place to eat? I'm not from around here. I'm looking for pizza, chicken wings, Asian food, fill in the blank. And that kind of helps, like, they're talking to me, I'm talking to them. And it really helps the deal start flowing, really. I mean, because as a dealer and a buyer, I've been on so many where just people walk up and go, "Ha, you got that for 50. Would you do 30?" And it's like, dude, the last one did 55. I've got it cheaper than eBay. And they just walk off and you're just like, okay. But yeah, man, I agree with that. Just going with an open mind. And I like the idea of challenging yourself. So that's kind of one of the things I've been recently trying to work on. Like, okay, I'm going to try to make a couple pieces of content. I'm going to try to pick up stuff for whatnot. I'm going to try to pick up, and I always try to learn. And you mentioned a great point, because every card show I've been to, I learned something new. I mean, one of my personal collections is a 1931 Disney card. Well, I did not know about that card until I met this really old man. And this is one of the guys looking in reference to Beckett magazine. And he goes, hey, when I was a 10-year-old kid, this was the cool card and this was the chase card of that set. So I start looking and I go, holy crap, this is super cool. And it's just one of those pieces that, like, every time I've shown it to somebody, they're like, oh, wow, that's amazing. And I'm like, yeah, they sold this to children out of packs of cigarettes back in the day. And they're like, whoa,
right?
You know what I mean? And but yeah, I resonate with the come in with an open mind. So kind of on the flip side, what's a thing that you've seen newer collectors or collectors do that you think is a good thing?
Newer collectors, like I said, put in research. I've gone to shows and talked to younger collectors or people that are newer to the hobby and ask them a few questions, and I can automatically tell that they put some research in. They're talking about what comps they see on eBay or other sources, what they may see on Sports Cards Collectors app, or what they may see on Card Ladders app. They're talking about stuff like that. They're talking about their knowledge of set collecting, or what sets were popular at what duration of time, maybe around the cards that they're looking at. They're talking about what was going on during their favorite players' rookie season, or throughout some aspect of throughout their career, what was happening, maybe where they were in school or in life or things like that. And then they, like some of the younger collectors that I've seen, newer to the hobby, may pull out their case and they have a story about why they purchased each card. Those are the things that sparks interest, that sparks a greater understanding of what's going on, what you're trying to get into. If you're telling stories about, I bought that Wemby, I bought this Anthony Edwards. I know that's not numbered, but I'm trying to make a deal here. The face value on that, or the last comp, was 50. I'm willing to take 45 because I'm trying to take that 45, and I'm trying to go over here and buy this. Whoever player it is that they're interested. When people start talking to me like that, this is the reason why I bought one Wemby car. I went to a show. A young man, 12 years old, was talking to me like this. I said, "What you got?" And he told me he was trying to make a move on a car someplace else, and he needed to sell this Wemby. The Wemby looked clean. Looked pretty cool. So I made him an offer on it. And I made him an offer. He was willing to take $1 amount. I think I gave him $15, $20, $25 over that because this is a 12-year-old trying to get after something. I'd rather support that, man, tell you the truth. And you don't even have to be at a car show. I'd rather support a kid. My family can tell you if I'm walking in out of a Target and there's a young man or a young woman there selling candy that you fundraise, I'm supporting. Because I used to be on the track team through shot put and discus, and I used to fundraise, and I know that feeling. I'm going to help support that. So those are the things when I hear that kind of stuff, I get excited about what the future of the hobby could be, because I remember I tell this story all the time, an 8 or 9-year-old kid going to a show, African American kid, no one else is there as African American. All the adults that are talking to me is like, I don't know what I'm doing or what I'm talking about or what something may cost. Or, young man, that's $200. I never went to a show without money. I made sure I had jobs, and I saved my money, and I saved allowances. I saved money from grandma that she gave to me. I went to a show right. And I challenged myself to make sure that I was educated on what I'm doing. Why am I here? What the stuff costs? Who is the player? And then when I started collecting autographs, I came to the athletes with inscription requests in a very organized manner and to the very much detailed on their career. Some of these guys were very impressed by that. So these are the things that I get into, making sure I'm accurate on what I'm doing, as I want to show other people how, they could also be accurate in what they're doing, at least to my understanding.
Yeah, I first off, every kid that I see out there selling candy, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, whatever, you're getting money from me one way or the other. Even if I don't buy something, there's been a few times where I'm just like, hey, look, they're like, oh, I've only got 2 more boxes left to sell. And I'm like, look, here's a 20, sell those other 2 boxes. And
yeah,
like,
I've done that too, bro.
You know what I mean? It's like, come on, put a little extra on top.
Young people, man, you see people trying to do something, setting a goal for themselves. I gotta support that some kind of way.
No, I totally agree. And even going to the card shows, I'll have kids that come up to me and say, I'm like, me and Amani, we went to trade night in Nashville this last weekend.
Okay.
And I had a guy come up to me, and he's kind of trying to shoot a price. I said, no, you're a kid. Start higher. And his mom's back there shaking his head. I'm like, no, you get a better deal. You're a kid. And I ended up giving him more than the other guys were offering, because he's like, yeah, this. And I'm like, you're a kid. You get special treatment. And mom's like, are you sure? And I'm like, this is invested in my future. He's going to come back in 20 years and have a handful of money. Like that's investing in the hobby for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
So what research tool, going back to like comp and research, what tools are you using?
I'm on eBay every day. I've been trying to pull back lately some, but I'm on eBay. So when my children go to sleep, I'm on eBay for at least probably an hour and a half, checking many different things out. It could be something that I saw from watching sports that sparked it. Like Kiki Hernandez is doing well. Something about him may spark me. I say, hey, I'm gonna look up what are they selling for. I'm looking at that. I may start reading some articles on different things. I may start looking at some interviews or other pieces of content so I can gain some kind of understanding of what is going on. I'm pretty much on that every day. But again, I enjoy doing this. In my profession, I like to look at data and analyze different things from a numerical standpoint, or we pulling pieces together to understand how people feel, things like that. So I love that kind of stuff. It's not work to me. If this is work to you, I don't know how
you're in the wrong spot, basically.
Yeah, I don't know how you would gain understanding. Anything in life, if you're looking at that aspect or those aspects to help you get better and it's work to you, if it's hard to go lift, you probably shouldn't be playing a sport. If it's hard to run and condition yourself, you probably should find something else to do. If you don't have the patience to do basket weaving, it's probably going to be hard to sit down. I look at G. If you don't have the patience to do editing, it's probably hard to sit down on that. If you're looking at that stuff as work, I don't know. You got to first gut check, find out something that you're interested in, understand all the aspects of that. Find out somebody who does it. Talk to them. Understand what you need to do. Maybe you add your little bit on top of it and keep it going. but you got to find out something you're interested in and be able to put the work in.
So you mentioned eBay. Are you using any apps? Are you using Card Ladder, anything like that?
I'm kind of old school. I'm pretty much on eBay. I don't use a lot of other stuff. I don't use anything that I got to pay for at all. That's just me, though. I go to shows. I see people now stuff. They may have subscriptions to it. They're getting that data. I don't feel like I've missed a deal. To tell you the truth, man, I've looked at so much data in life that you could give me probably 3 or 4, and this is how my mind works. You could give me 3 or 4 pieces of data, I could pretty much draw a graph in my head.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. So the only subscription that I recently jumped into was Center Stage, and formerly it was a free product.
Yep.
But I really use Center Stage mostly to help me designate what parallel it is. That's kind of my biggest gripe with Panini product right now. This is the giraffe. This is the green lays, and sometimes you don't necessarily know what you're looking at.
No, Center Stage a product where you can scan the card.
Yes, you take a picture, it tells you exactly.
Yes.
Now they do have a free version of it, but you only get so many scans a month. I like going through dollar boxes, so I can
understand too why these companies charge. So I'm not knocking them. I understand why. They're trying to bring more data to you, and it's hard to bring all this data. And where do you store it at if you're not charging somebody?
Oh yeah, server space costs money for sure, sure.
Yep.
So in 2024, as I'm a new collector. I'm just now listening to this podcast. I don't really know anything. Why should I go to a card show?
You get to meet people. You get to learn something more about yourself. You get to challenge yourself on something. Everybody's coming in there is not. I didn't come in. I've been in the hobby a long time, knowing everything and able to answer every question. So you're gonna learn something. You get a chance to network and meet people, depending on what show you go to from all over the country. It may be cities that you've never visited. You get to learn something about that person before you even get there. Learn something about that city before you even get there. And at the end of the day, too, we all can do better, no matter how long you've been in the hobby, of putting a card in a penny sleeve and a top loader. Just practice that. You can practice at a show. You can get some cards, rip them, or buy some cards yourself and sit down and re-sleeve them and put them in a different top loader. But that exercise can make you a lot of money in life and can preserve something. I had a Topps Chrome LeBron James rookie card base in storage for 21 years in a penny sleeve top loader. Sent that in. It was a PSA 10. So just that basic exercise can do a lot for you in the long term. So if you can learn that just alone, if you go and ask somebody, hey, show me how to put a card in a top loader and a penny sleeve. What do I do with the edge of the card? How do I get it in so I don't ruin the edge? All of that kind of stuff. There's a benefit there. And the fact that you asked that question, you humbled yourself. I'm going to talk like my grandmother right now. You humbled yourself to ask that question. It means you opened yourself up to a lot more wisdom throughout your day at that show or days at that show.
No, I would totally agree. So, FD, man, I really appreciate you coming on.
Jerry, I appreciate you.
Bro, tell the people, where can we find you?
I'm on. I'm rolling with FD on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. I'm RWFD on Facebook. I can answer any question. Also, I'm rolling with FD at gmail.com. You can ask me anything. I'm more than happy to read your email, correspond with you. If you leave comments and you're asking a question on any social media or YouTube, I'm also there trying to get you the information that you need or point you to someone else that I know that really knows. It's a pleasure being here, Jerry. I can't tell you how excited I was to hear about this today. You're one of the first people to invite me on a show and say, "Hey, FD, what's up, man? Let's talk." And I appreciate that.
Well, I tell you, FD is an encyclopedia of knowledge. Just in case people didn't know,
Thank you.
he has just a ton of knowledge, and especially in the hobby, in life, like all around. If you've got life questions, hit FD up. He's probably got the right answer.
I can help.
Yeah. But yeah, just for everybody to know, we rolling with FD over here, baby.
Thank you, brother. And I'm rolling with Jerry.
Yes, sir. Now, everybody, just remember, the Jerry Pitre Show is your go-to podcast for everything in the world of collectible cards and sports memorabilia. Thanks, like, follow, share, subscribe, and go check out my man, FD.
Keep rolling, baby. Appreciate you, man.
We out.